Welcome back to Hardball. President Obama has made a point lately of trying to find agreement, at least in principle, with some Republicans, even when his party line is disagreeable to them. Back in January, the president singled out Wisconsin Congressman Paul Ryan at the Republicans' retreat up in Baltimore. Let's listen to what the president said then.
I think Paul, for example, head of the Budget Committee, has looked at the budget and has made a serious proposal. I've read it. I can tell you what's in it. And there's some ideas in there that I would agree with, but there's some ideas that we should have a healthy debate about because I don't agree with.
Well, last week, Congressman Ryan agreed to disagree at that Blair House health care meeting with the president. Let's listen to the congressman this time.
When you take a look at this, it's really deeper than the deficits or the budget gimmicks or the actuarial analysis. There really is a difference between us. And we've been talking about how much we agree on different issues, but there really is a difference between us. And it's basically this. We don't think the government should be in control of all of this.
Well, is Congressman Ryan right? Is that the most important difference of all? Paul Ryan joins us now. He's the top Republican. He's ranking member, not chairman of the committee, as the president designated him a moment ago, on the Budget Committee. Thank you so much. I worked on the Budget Committee for a long time on the Senate. I know the problems. I went looking at the numbers yesterday. It's not just that we have a deficit of $1.6 trillion. It's that the numbers are completely out of whack. We have like 3.8 in spending and 2.1 in receipts. It's almost 2 to 1 now. The government's spending more money than it's bringing in. If you add up all the taxes, payroll, income, everything, it doesn't touch even, seems, the cost of the entitlements. We are completely out of whack now. Does it seem odd to you that we have these conversations on television when they don't bear relationship to that problem?
Yeah. It does, and there's so much political demagoguery. Both parties do this, mind you. I'm not saying we're all good and they're bad, but the problem is with all this demagoguery, no one wants to tackle this problem because they feel that they'll lose their next campaign. Well, I'm sick of all of that. You look at the fact that our budget is on an unsustainable trajectory. That's not the fault of just Democrats or the fault of Republicans. Both parties are at fault for this. Both parties got to come together and fix this mess because our debt is going to catastrophic levels. We will have a debt crisis in this country. And just so you know, the main programs of our government, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, they're all going bankrupt. They're growing themselves into extinction. And so you've got to reform these programs for future generations if you're going to save these programs. The sooner we get on to talking about how to do that, the better off we're all going to be.
You know, getting Erskine Bowles, the guy who got defeated for the Senate a couple of times, who was a great chief of staff to Clinton. He came in and cleaned things up to a large extent at the White House. He did a good job. I think he's great. I think Alan Simpson's first rate. They're both very courageous guys, but they don't have to face. They're the head of this new deficit commission. The president's designated them, but they don't have any constituency at home to worry about. They can come up and draw out all kinds of numbers for higher taxes, later retirement. Oh, they can do all kinds of wonderful things. They can have personal accounts. They can have everything that you might like, but they don't have to face the voters. The people you work with do. Is there any way you could ever, as long as you serve in Congress, get somebody to reduce the benefits of Social Security, change the formula, change the retirement age, pay for it?
I do.
When are people going to start doing this sort of thing when they want to run for re-election?
Chris, I introduced my bill that does these things that you just more or less mentioned in 2008. I did this during the Bush administration. I ran on this plan for re-election last year, and I won with 64% in a district that went for Dukakis, Clinton, Gore, and Obama. So you can take on these issues.
What kind of a district do you have? Let's talk
Les Aspen's old seat. You were around when Les Aspen was.
You have a very, very high-educated, it's not a national public radio audience. It's something like that, though, isn't it?
Well, it's a district that listens to people when they tell them the truth, that listens to people when... Look, a lot of people may not agree with how I propose to fix this problem, but their minds are open to fixing the problem. And so I've spent a lot of time talking to the people I represent about this fiscal mess that's coming down the pike, and I've put together a plan that the CBO certifies, makes Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security totally solvent and pays off our national debt and averts a debt crisis. And you can't make this all up by taxing. The spending is the real source of the problem. Okay. And I think the president, and he and I have had some really good conversations about this. I hope those continue. But we are nowhere near the political landscape we need to be to really tackle this problem.
You know, I've been through this. I'm older than you. I've been through this, watching this and being a staffer up there. I watched them, your party, Ronald Reagan back in '86 in his second term, talked about putting caps on some of these COLAs and things like that to reduce the automatic growth in the entitlements like Social Security. He lost. You know, Paul Hawkins got defeated, blown away. Jeremiah Denton got blown away in Alabama. All the conservatives got blown away the minute they put the it's called the third rail for a reason. If somebody signs on to your legitimate proposals for balancing the budget at some point in the future, they will lose elections because the voters do want something for nothing, don't they? You say they don't.
So no.
You say they don't want something for nothing? I think they do.
We have had this problem. If it was not what you said, then we would have fixed this already by now. So what I propose, and if we act soon, you can say to anybody who's in and near retirement, if you're 55 or over, we're not going to change your benefits. If you're under the age of 55, these programs are going bankrupt anyway. They're not going to be there for you as they're designed today. So let's reform them, make them more sustainable so they work. And so what I've basically said is we want to have a sturdy and sustainable safety net in America for people with low income, for people who are sick. Let's have that. But then let's have a system on top of it that's sustainable for future generations. If you act now, you can make sure that people in and near retirement, above 55, have no huge disruptions in their lives. And so that's my point. Do it now. You won't hurt people in retirement, and you'll save these programs, make them more sustainable for future generations. If you keep delaying entitlement reform, then all bets are off, and people are going to have severe disruptions in their lives.
Let me put a liberal hat on for a minute. It seems to me that we are trying to match with President Obama the social democracy of Europe. And I think that's a good idea myself. But the problem is, on top of our costs for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and any future costs, if there are any that balance out or add to our costs for this new health care program, we have the biggest military expenditure in the world. The Swedes don't have to pay for that. The Germans don't have to pay for that. They don't even like blue helmets over there. The Brits don't really have to. The French don't have to. Everybody in the world we trying to compete with in terms of social programming and safety netting, they don't have the world-class military we have. Every time you watch Meet the Press, one of the shows, they got the latest, helicopters, the latest fighter planes. We got all that stuff we're paying for. How can we have all of that military cost and have a self-sustaining social welfare program in this country? How can we do it without driving people crazy with higher taxes?
Right. Well, that's another point. But defense spending is at its smallest amount as a percentage of GDP as it's been in years. So here's the problem with your social democracy tax, which, I'll just agree with you on whether it's a good thing to have or not. We can't afford it with the demographics we've got. We're going from 40 million retirees to 80 million in one generation. Our birth rates are declining, and healthcare costs are going up 6 to 8%. And so just mathematically, this pay-as-you-go social welfare state, social democracy agenda is fiscally unsustainable, and you literally cannot tax your way out of this problem. It is a huge debt problem. You got Greece going down, you've got the pigs, you have Portugal, Italy, Greece, Spain, with huge debt crises. We should not fool ourselves to think that could not come here.
Well, you've got a heck of a constituency out there in Wisconsin. They must all have PhDs in economics because they do understand the problem. I think a lot of people get it, but they don't like it, and I don't know anybody that wants their taxes to go up or their benefits to be cut, and that's the nature of the beast. Anyway, thank you, as Congressman Paul Ryan. I see why the president likes you, or at least